Hey pals, how's it going? Welcome back. Fucking messed up the intro. Welcome back to another edition of my Clueless review series where I go through classic albums, or what you say are classic albums, and listen to them. So we're going to be doing Madvillainy by Madvillain, which includes MF Doom and Madlib, that duo who kind of locked themselves away and I guess made this album over a couple years. But before I get into it, I just wanted to say how I go about listening to these albums real quick. I usually just go through one time with the lyrics for the first impression, and then over like a week or two, I'll drive around with it and just get the impressions just by casually listening to it. And then I'll, for one more time before I film this, I sit down and then, go through the lyrics again and make sure I'm getting everything I can get. But yeah, that's about it. Also, there's a lot of songs on this album, so I'm just going to go through the highlights, really. There's 22 songs. So if I don't talk about every single one of them, sorry. I'm not trying to make a 20-minute video over here. Remember that I don't know anything. This is only my third full album review, so still learning. Don't be too harsh. Other than that, yeah. Don't got anything else to say. Let's get into it. So it starts off with the Illest Villains, which is like the intro. And that kind of sets it up as being this interesting, I don't even know how to describe it. So it's kind of avant-garde sounding, is that the word I'm looking for? And it has like quotes from old classic movies, like 50s movies and shit like that. And it sets up of like the theme of villainy and what makes people evil, I guess. But yeah, that's right from off the start. I was like, what is this? I have no idea what I'm getting into. But then it really transitions into one of my favorite songs on the album after listening to it a couple times. Accordion. I really like the line at the end, the Freudian slip like Freudian or whatever. And as I was listening to this album, I was wondering how much time Doom actually spends on writing and what his process is, because it's interesting how it's pretty free associative is the word I'm looking for, I guess. How he just like plucks ideas out of the air and makes them connect with rhymes and double entendres and so on, double entendres and stuff. But I like how the first line, living on borrowed time, that kind of does establish a theme of time and going back and forth. And I don't know, living on borrowed time is kind of an interesting way to start the first actual verse in the album. And as I was listening to it, I obviously got to know Doom more as like a character. And I know he has a lot of alter egos. So he might be like exaggerating some things in the lyrics that did or did not happen in real life. So yeah, that's what I got out of Accordion. And then it goes into Meat Grinder after that. It starts off with a Frank Zappa sample. I don't really know much about Frank Zappa, honestly, but I looked it up and it's from something called Uncle Meat. So that may be where he got Meat Grinder, like the title inspiration for the lyrics. And then after that sample, it switches beats with this like interesting slide guitar sound in the background. And I started to pick up on the story after reading the lyrics. And also I was starting to notice how obscure his references are, really. He talks about someone called Jack LaLanne, like the fitness guy. And then even after that, he's like, don't try too hard remembering who that is. And just like kind of bragging that he picks out these obscure references. And I really like that last verse in that song. How does it go? You can find a villain in satin congas. The van screeches, the old man preaches about the gold sand beaches. The cold hand reaches for the old Tana Lisa's. Jesus. So yeah, like you can definitely tell he has his certain style of rapping, and that, when he gets on a run, it just kind of all flows together. Then I'm going to move on to Raid, which kind of showcased a faster flow with an up-tempo beat, I guess. And I really like the lyrics in that one, too. I like the feature on that one, too. It was like a bit more introspective, how this person was broke from rapping and how him and Doom are just a couple of nerdy guys. What was that guy's name again? MED. So I kind of liked his verse on that one. Then moving on to America's Most Blunted. It's probably the most straightforward song on the album, at least until this point. And it was pretty funny. Obvious weed song. But yeah, it was cool. And then by the time we got to Sick Fit, which was like another interlude, I could really tell like how well each song flowed into each other with the beats that Madlib chooses and stuff. It was, yeah. I just like, it felt like one continuous thing. So I thought that was cool. And then on to Rainbows, which I enjoyed. I liked how the singing like follows the beat. I don't know what that's called, but like, yeah, the singing followed the beat, and it was an interesting beat. So, and it kind of hints at a story about like a snitch and how they're trying to, I guess, get revenge on him snitching by making him drink Drano or something like that. It's kind of dark, but it was a cool song. Then moving on to Curls, you couldn't really get a whole scene in a lot of these songs. It just kind of hints at stories, and in this one, I like how it kind of hinted at a kid growing up too fast. Like how he'd bring liquor to school and stuff. And it's kind of reflective, like going back to that time theme, I guess, and how it kind of shifts from the present to the past. And yeah, it kind of reminds me a bit, I don't know if I'm reaching, but like One Love off Illmatic, and how it was that kid who wore the bulletproof vest and, you know, was just growing up way too fast. And then on to Money Folder. I didn't really have much to say about that one. It's just feels like another continuation and showcase for Doom's style with his rhyming and shit. I think it's funny how they like recorded the voiceover that goes in and out through the album, that like old-timey voiceover, and how they like, I guess if they did record it, they actually put references to Doom in there and about being a villain and all that stuff. The next song, I guess if it is a song, called Shadows of Tomorrow, which is I guess what Madlib was reciting the poem by Sun Ra with like a hypnotic beat in the background. And it brings back the theme of time again. I don't know. I'm just trying to connect the dots here, but I like the line in the poem that the past belongs to the dead. Makes me think about how we shouldn't dwell on the past, but that the past is perfect since we can see it in hindsight. And it like shapes how we are today because of experience. Thus, today is the shadow of tomorrow since we learned from the perfect, like finished past. I thought it was thought-provoking. If it feels like I'm reading off something, it because it's my notes I wrote down. So yeah, it was pretty thought-provoking. In Operation Lifesaver, we actually were presented with a bit of a scene. And after reading the lyrics, it's about like him talking to a girl saying that you need a fucking mint. Like, your breath stank. And I thought that was kind of funny. The next one was Figaro. There was a lot of songs that like fit with the style of accordion. Like Figaro is one of those, and like all caps towards the end is like that too. Which is where he's coming up with his references, his creative references, and his double entendres. And yeah, it just continues maybe the precedent set by accordion, and that's like the main style of Doom on this album. By the time Hardcore Hustle came around, I was noticing the creative beats and just how different it was sounding from anything else I had listened to this point. And then on Fancy Clown, we get the first inkling of some emotion from I guess his alter ego, Victor Vaughn. I don't know. And who hurt you, Victor Vaughn? It's funny because like the way it's set up in the song, it's like his alter ego talking about a girl who cheated on him with Doom. So I don't know if it's like a real story and he's just trying to make it interesting by putting his alter egos in there and stuff. I was an interesting song. It had like an R&B style, and that was like filtered through Madlib's distinctive production. So I thought that was cool. And then, like I said, all caps was another showcase, another poetic boasting for Doom. Yep. By this point, like I said, everything just kind of mashed together, at least when I first listened to it. But that's a pretty cool thing, that like it was a style that just, like I said, flowed together. And the last song, Rhinestone Cowboy, Rip Glenn Campbell. That's an interesting reference. Thought it was a good ending. It had some of the best lines in the whole album. I'm not really going through line by line like I was in some of these other reviews, but you know, that's just time consuming, and if you already listened to it, you know the lines. But the voiceover returns at the end and bringing back that time theme, frequently mirrored our times. It was ambiguous as to whether, like I said, any of these stories actually happened in real life, and it's when the voiceover says frequently mirrored our times in like newspaper headlines, it's like a different reality of this album. And I thought that's interesting. If you go back and listen to it again, it's like you're entering Doom's reality when you're listening to this album, or Madlib's too, because he sets the universe up with his beats, you know, the world, the atmosphere. I'm kind of pulling at straws here. And like I said from the beginning, this was hard for me to review because it's something I've never heard before. And when I first listened to it, I thought it was like this real esoteric, experimental thing. But it really started to come into view after I looked at the lyrics, and it's a lot more personal than I initially thought. And going back to the beats, it's not like those actual jazzy beats in Illmatic. They're because when I was reading about it on Wikipedia, Madlib would just find these obscure records and put those beats in there. It's like a different kind. When you put those old beats with Doom's flow, it turns into this whole other jazzy kind of thing on those kind of songs like Accordion or All Caps. It turns into this rap mixed with jazz, and that's what rap was. It was poetry mixed with jazz in the beginning, and it's just like it turned into something different on this. I think I don't know. It really turned into something artful, I would say, on this album. And that's why I'm sure a lot of people recommended me to this. First of all, because it's really trippy, but and it was different. When I first talked about it in my first MF Doom video, I was telling like, some college kid came up to me to be like, you gotta listen to this album. It's like a masterpiece. And I was like, all right, calm down there. I did feel like it dragged toward the end, because like I said, it all flows together. So that's like, I don't know, some of the things I was just thinking about was like, geez, when is this gonna end? I didn't think every song was amazing, but I think as a whole, and I really liked the first half, a string of songs together. I think that's what would probably push it to be a 5 instead of a 4.5, because of how different it is, and just just as a whole, it's an experience. It's an experience, and I'm just skimming the surface probably on all his wordplay and stuff like that. And tell me what I missed if I didn't pick up on certain other themes or one of his alter egos or some shit. I don't know. There's so much you could probably dig into. But yeah, thanks for that recommendation. Leave a comment below to tell me what I missed and what album to review fully next. And follow me at Neon9Sucks on Twitter. And I don't got anything else to say. Peace out, dogs. Interesting album, I would say. Finally listened to it. Took me forever. I remember listening to it for the first time in like July or June last year, and I was like, this is gonna be too hard. I don't feel like doing it. And I finally sat down and did it, and look at the lyrics, and it was an experience. I enjoyed it though. Cool. Tell me what to do next.